I love this question because it's causing me to have a reflection, because my immediate response to this question was negative. I felt like I was being asked this question almost as an accusation or a what's wrong with you, and that is not what he meant at all. And so I think it's an important thing to talk about. Never been married, is it a red flag, right? For me, I don't think it is, but it could be to somebody else that I've never been married. But I think I want to talk about the fact that I still have insecurities about answering that question, because, again, I immediately went to this place where I was like, oh, this guy's going to say there's something wrong with me because of it. And that's not at all it. And that's not the first time I've been surprised in some comments where I thought they were going someplace negative and they weren't. So it just tells you I'm listening and I'm paying attention and I'm doing my own self-reflection and kind of calling myself out on some of my own things. But I do brace myself for this, kind of the question of like, why are you still single, or why were you never married? Like, I brace myself for that question on every date, because I know my story and I think there's validity to it. And, my story is a little bit more of like, I grew up in a family that really focused on like education and financial responsibility. Like our parents didn't talk to us about marriage, having kids, or feeling responsible for those things. They were very much focused on take care of yourself and then worry about everything else later, but never be in a situation where you have to depend on someone else, right? So I took that message on steroids, and I made it my life goal to be able to take care of myself financially, so that if I were ever to enter into a relationship or partnership or marriage, I wouldn't lose anything, right? I'm Gen X. We kind of started seeing people getting divorced for the first time, and families, you'd see a family that had grown up in a nice house, and then the divorce happened, and then mom and the kids ended up in an apartment somewhere, which is nothing wrong with that, but it was like always this sort of downgrade. And I remember their moms having to work so hard, and just like life was really hard for them. And that stuck in my head, where I was like, okay, if I get married, like my finances are going to get tied into this person. I could get used to a style of life and a home and just all of those things. And with there being a 50 to 60% chance of divorce, it's highly likely I'm going to end up divorced, right? And then I'm going to lose things that I'm accustomed to having, and I might not be in the financial situation that I need to be to maintain those things on my own, right? So that was a very deep-seated fear I had for a long time. And so my focus for pretty much my entire adult life was like, get to that point where you don't have to worry about it. And that point didn't happen until like my late 40s and now like 51. I'm in a place now where I don't have to worry about it, right? And like, I would even do a prenup just so that I don't have to worry about it. But I can understand why like a guy might think that something is wrong with me because I haven't been married. And I will admit to, previously thinking that, an unmarried man of my age might be a red flag. But I've been challenged to think differently about that. I met somebody not too long ago. It didn't work out, but great guy who hadn't been married, same age. And like his life story was like, it made sense. And like he went through some rough things. I've been through some rough things. And like, he's waited until now he's kind of on the other side of it and has this really great stability and outlook on life. And I'm exactly the same. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I love that this guy has put that kind of effort and thought and self-awareness into his life. So it's not a red flag for me. I used to think that I'd rather like date somebody maybe who's been married and divorced, because at least I know they can handle that commitment. And I think a little bit differently about that now, where I'm like, well, wait a minute. I understand that relationships don't work out. I get it. Life isn't perfect. But like, you got married and it didn't work out. And there had to, it takes two for that to fall apart most of the time. I think there's some unique circumstances where one person can be completely to blame. I don't know, but if you look back at the history of their relationship, you can probably find some things that both of them are responsible for. But, like, why couldn't you make it work? So now I look a little bit of, I investigate that. Like, it's not a red flag. I'm not going to not date you, but I am going to think about, like, why didn't that work? And what now is different about you that would make this work, if we were a right match for each other. So I know, again, I'm babbling. Please, thank you for handling the fact that I have ADHD. And so my thoughts are all over the place sometimes. But I'm just glad this, like, question came up, because I was ready to be like, what's wrong with me for not being married? Because I assume that's where it's going. And thank you, Dean, for correcting me and being like, no, that's not a problem. Because it's important for me to check myself sometimes and realize, like, it's not something to get defensive about. I am who I am, and what it took to get where I am is pretty damn impressive. And I'll get into those things in future segments or podcasts or whatnot. But, like, I've survived some pretty intense things. I've had the great support of, like, family and friends, but, like, overall, like, I've done all of it, all the decision making, all the emotional labor, I've done 100% alone. And that's impressive. And so, like, now that I'm on the other side of it, like, I consider myself, like, if you get me as a partner, I am somebody that can handle shit. I can do anything. I can get through anything. I can handle your stuff. Like, I'm so ride or die, and I'm so solid, and I'm so capable that, like, I look at, like, if I could get somebody like me, I just look at the rest of life as being really cool and really fun, and, like, somebody that isn't going to fall apart, right? And that has the strength for those tough moments, and to get through them with humor and humility and self-awareness, checking myself along the way and knowing that I'm not always right. So I look at it now and I think it's a massive asset, but I can understand why people look at never married as a red flag. And so I'd be curious as to what other people's thoughts have been on that. I've certainly thought negatively of it in the past, even though it's me. Now I think very differently about it. I used to think about marriage and divorce one way, and now I kind of have different questions and thoughts about it. So I'd love to hear what other people's experiences, what their first impressions are when they see something like that, never married, for somebody who's 50, male or female. And, like, what are your thoughts, and what does it say to you? And if you're someone like me, how do you experience it? And do you go through these moments of, like, defensiveness where you feel like when people sort of pose a question like this, they're asking you to defend what's wrong with you, and they're not all the time. Some are, and that's fair, but they're not. And so what's your experience on this? Love to hear it.